I used to collect Indian coins. I don't anymore. The collection's been dispersed. But when I was collecting them, I wanted to record what I was collecting, so I built a database, and as the collection expanded, so did the database, but since I've got rid of the coins, I've continued to expand the database. So that's what I'm going to show you, and towards the end, I'll talk a bit about the Satavahana coins that it's already told you about. So for those of you who, after you've seen this, will want to go and use it a lot, is called PS for Paul Stevens, indiancoins.com. So www.psindiancoins.com. This database exists in two places. It exists on my PC, where I build it and change it and do things to it. And it also exists up in what is nowadays called the cloud. Why somebody's invented that name, I don't know. On a remote computer that people access when you go onto this website. And I copy bits from my PC onto the remote database when I want to feel like it, remember, and so on. So we're going to be looking at the local database, which is on this PC. And this is what it looks like. Ignore all this stuff, I change it from time to time. But essentially the important stuff is along the top here, all these drop-down menus, right? And you can see it goes from modern up to ancient over here. Right, and I have divided all the coins up the way I want to divide them up, and I don't really care what anybody else thinks. So I don't want any criticisms about that, thank you. But up to the Sultanate period is really, they're the coins I used to collect. So that part of the database is pretty good, actually. There are some places where I get bored. I should say the way I build this is to work for a few weeks, maybe months on one area, then I get bored, so I go to another area, and so nothing is ever finished, but it's quite finished in some places. Once we go back beyond the Sultanate period, I didn't collect many of those coins, so I haven't really built much of the database, but you'll see parts of it. And I found this period to be vastly more complicated than the Sultanate onwards period. And so I've been trying to get various books to guide me, and they're not very good. Almost all the books written in this period cover a little bit, and they overlap with other books that cover another little bit, and it's all incredibly confusing for somebody as stupid as me. So I'm trying to simplify it, and of course I get help from my friend here in particular. So if you notice errors and so on, it's his fault. Okay, so let's start. How does it work? Right, so all you do, let's start with the most modern ones. Republics, it's pretty obvious what they are. I haven't done much with Pakistan, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. I've done a little bit with India. If you click on it, it opens it up. You can see a group called unsorted coins. This is because I collect photographs from different places. As a matter of fact, these were all coins of mine, and just want to shove them somewhere without putting them in the right place. And then at some point in the future, I put them in the right place. And I've just divided this into two pretty obvious areas, pre-decimal coinage. And you can see here, originally, those of you who remember my first presentations about the database, you used to have to click on every coin individually to see them. And somebody, not a million miles away, said that this was very tedious. So I've altered it so that you have a choice of seeing all the coins in a particular group just by scrolling down. So here you can see these are organised simply by denomination. So the rupee and the lower denominations, annas, 2 annas and so on. But you can also go directly to look at particular ones if you want to. Go straight to the half annas and so on. And here it just gives a list of all the coins I know about. If there's a tick next to this photo link, it means I have got a photo of that coin. If there is no tick, it means I haven't got a photo. I've got the date or the variety from somewhere else, and whether it really exists or not, I don't know. Okay, so the only ones I know for sure exist are the ones I've got photos of. And if you want to see the photos, you just click on the photo link and it shows you the photo, where I got it from, and a bit more information if it's available, like the weight, diameter and so on. Now, in this particular case, it's only one photo. Under some of these, there are lots of photos of different specimens that I happen to have come across. So I think that's really all pretty obvious. There was one thing I might say about this sort of group of coins. I haven't done much with these, but if you go to the rupee, for instance, there are loads and loads of different types of these, and they would be quite good fun to collect, I think, for somebody who's sort of starting off with Indian coins, because you're allowed to have these. They're not more than 100 years old, so you can buy them from India. I can't tell you how much they are, but the ones I've seen are not particularly expensive. Even the rarest ones are only sort of £300, that kind of thing. So, you know, you could form a really good collection of these. There are hundreds of them. And I think that's about all I want to say there. Otherwise, I'll go on too long. Then we go on to what I've called Europeans, which is essentially a colonial thing. Oh, I don't know if we're allowed to say that word anymore, are we? Especially not here. We'll just call it Europeans for the time being. But of course, all the stuff I've written, the books and catalogues and so on, have all been about the English East India Company. But there were other people. The earliest, of course, were the Portuguese, who had lots of rulers. These are all the Portuguese rulers. They're the rulers of Portugal, not local rulers. They had local governors as well, but I haven't bothered with them. And they have jolly interesting coins, actually. I mean, they've got several mints, as you can see here. I won't go into that too much, but just to have a look at some of the coins. Right, if we view all coin types, these are really interesting. They're incredibly expensive, so they're difficult to collect, but they're also forged a lot. So almost all of them, as far as I can see, are fakes. These are probably fakes, but they give illustration of what things look like. And they are rather good fun. They all have religious connotations, obviously Christian religion, because the Portuguese were fanatically Christian and tried to convert all of the poor old Indian people in their things, including my wife came from Goa, incidentally, and she was Christian, so presumably at some point her ancestors had been Christianized. And they have loads of Christian symbols on these things, especially one particular saint they appear to like. I think it's Saint Sebastian, one of them. Anyway, he got fried alive, and I always think it's really rather a nasty sort of thought to think these people had pictures of him on their coins. They have a grill where he was fried on.
San Lawrence.
Lawrence was it?
Sebastian was arrowed.
Oh, he was the arrowed one, was he? Anyway, moving on, we have, of course, other people like the Dutch. I don't know, what should we look at here? Negapatan, I suppose. The lots of their coins look like these little gold coins, which have a deity on one side and then lots of dots on the other side. Of course, the English East India Company also produced coins that look remarkably similar to this. And actually, in lots of auction catalogues, you see these Dutch coins being sold as English East India Company coins, because they can get a lot more money for them than the Dutch. So you have to watch out for tricky things like that. But we also have, of course, the French. Now, the French, of course, are very interesting because it's really the wars between the French and the English which ended up with the English taking over most of India, because it was extremely important to the English to keep the French out of everything. The French tried to get into everything and lost out. And you remember Waterloo? Any Frenchmen here? Waterloo. Oh, mustn't mention Waterloo. But their sort of big mint was Pondicherry. And they have some quite interesting coin types. Where there are no photos obviously means I haven't got the photos, but these are typically French sort of coins with French emblems on the fleur-de-lis and so on. But they also have coins that are very Indian. So the Arcot rupees, this sort of thing, which are struck by lots of authorities, the English, the French, and lots of other people, because they're really a coin of trade, particularly in Bengal. So although Arcot is miles further south, the British are producing Arcot rupees and shipping them up to their trading posts in Bengal. And the French ones have this upside down crescent on. So that's a way of identifying those. And there are all sorts of different symbols in that position, which make Arcot rupees really a very interesting and collectible group of coins. I won't show you all of them, but there are lots of different symbols, and most of them we don't know who they refer to. We know which ones are French, which ones are English, but there are loads of other symbols that nobody's really assigned to anyone. So there's a whole load of study to be done there. Well, let's go to Europeans, and you'll see a lot more here how I envisage the catalogue eventually developing everywhere, because this is obviously what I've done most work on. So here, where it says, first thing, Calcutta Mint, view details, so you can see details of the Calcutta Mint. Well, what does this tell us? Different authorities had coins struck at Calcutta. So the Nawabs of Bengal, Alwar coins were struck, the state of Alwar had coins struck at Calcutta, and so on. All sorts of different things, gives you a little map. And that happens for every mint in India, but I haven't finished them all. Then if we go on to the next thing down, it says Calcutta early issues, view text. So if I click on this, it gives you a picture, gives you pages of the text, and this is all the stuff from my book on Bengal. So the whole of the Book of Bengal is in here. If you want it for free, you can have it, and it won't look quite the same, but if you go to print to a PDF, it'll produce a PDF, tell you how many pages there are, 10 pages, and you can print it if you want. If you then go to the view all coin types, again, there's the print the PDF, and you can print that, so you could have all the text and all the catalogue, put it together in any way you want. Now, Charlene was asking about this bit, catalogue number. Well, that is the catalogue number in the books that I've produced, so I'm not varying the catalogue number, but it's my catalogue number. And throughout this thing, if you see a catalogue number, it's my catalogue number, unless I chose to copy somebody else's, in which case it's that catalogue number. Photo link, which is the next thing along, is, as I showed you on the other one, linked to the photo, whatever photo I've got. In this case, there's no tick next to it, so it means I haven't got a photo, which is not surprising because no coins of this particular type have been discovered. Pridmore number is next. Well, that's because Pridmore wrote the last catalogue that was written before I wrote the catalogue. AH is the Hijri year, RY is the regnal year. Provenance is the provenance of the photograph. Okay, so it's not necessarily where the coin is, it's where I got the photo from, which might be where the coin is, might not. Comments, pretty obvious, and rarity, pretty obvious. The one thing I would say about comments is occasionally they're highlighted in blue. Things I highlight in blue means they're hyperlinks. So if you want to know more about this particular coin, you click on it and it takes you to information about the Ali Nagar Calcutta coins, which I have talked about at these events in the past, so I'm sure you all know about them.
Yeah.
And I won't say any more, but if you need to know more, you go to my website and you can find out. I want the catalogue, the coins, to be associated with text. See, the only other place you could see anything vaguely like this, and really is quite crappy in comparison, though I would say it, is Kraus Mishler. Oh dear, well, there we are. My views of Kraus Mishler will be known worldwide.
That's okay.
So they have huge lists of coins, but they have absolutely no evidence to support whether or not the lists have any basis in fact. And in lots of places, the errors are so gross, it's almost unbelievable. But there isn't anywhere else that you can go and look up these catalogues. You have to go back to museum catalogues, which are excellent, but they only talk about coins in their museum. It's not a complete catalogue. And there are one or two really good catalogues, but mostly, again, they're very old and talk about a very limited number of coins. So what I'm trying to do here is collect all the information that's appearing now, particularly from dealers' catalogues on the internet, and put the photos with the lists of coins so that evidence for the existence of coins is available. And you might say, well, gosh, these later coins everybody knows everything about, don't they? Yeah, well, you know, Pridmore published a really good book on the uniform coins, and it had all the dates in there, and he was a pretty thorough bloke. But I can tell you there's at least one date of, I can't remember which denomination it is now, 1935, which you think I'd know everything about, it doesn't exist. It's in the book, but it doesn't exist. Nobody's ever found one. So, errors get made in the best places. And of course, it's true that there are mistakes, thousands I expect, in this database because it's enormous. But because it's electronic, I can correct it, which is why I've been loath to write any more books, despite people keep trying to push me to write the books. The trouble is, as soon as I write it, I find a mistake. Whereas here, when I see a mistake, I can correct it.
Do you want to show one example where you have many examples under the photo link? Because that is something that, again, why people think that, say, for example, the classicist databases that we are engaged with very hotly is because then you can use it as a tool to create die comparisons and stuff like that. And something like here, we can actually see that this sort of example also will tell you that there are, you can put as many pieces as you have access to under this particular category. So you can have a die comparison here.
Yes, well, here we are.
Yeah.
I want to show you next. Right, Mogul contemporaries. So these are in Kraus Mischler. It's very confusing because they've got the sort of princely states who they consider to be under British control somehow, and then separately independent states, and you have to know whether it's an independent state or princely state, and so you spend ages looking for the bloody thing. I've just taken the whole lot and put them all in as Mogul contemporaries. So there are a lot of them. And we'll come back to how it might be easier to find things, but I want to show you this particularly because recently I was looking for, just through auction catalogues, and I came across this entry in Shatragan's, one of Shatragan's sales, for a whole collection, I think it's about 400 copper coins of Baroda. And all it had were the descriptions of each one, and I recognised the hand of the person who'd written the descriptions, but there were no photos. So I wrote to Shatragan and said, it's a shame there's no photos. And he said, well, actually, I've got a PDF file which has got photos of every coin. So I got photos of the whole lot, but of course it's PDF, so the photos are very small, so they're not very good. But they're really good fun coins, these things. And if I go to this mint, for instance, you can see they're all rather crude things. But I can show you all sorts of Mogul contemporaries. I mean, one I spent ages working on, only to find somebody else who's writing a catalogue. But anyway, Mysore, old Tipu's coins. Oh, you can see here actually one thing I've done is sometimes I get fed up with typing stuff in, so I'll just scan the whole book and I can just add the whole book. And it's out of copyright, so you can do that. And sometimes I have more than one book, so you can read different people's views of things. But Tipu, now what was his big mint was down here, wasn't it? I mean, he has the most beautiful coins. Look at this, really nice coins. But again, because they're so nice, they're very expensive. But Heinz Bonds, who's one of our members, has got a huge collection of these things. But he's writing a book with a colleague, so he won't give me photos of his collection yet. When he's written a book, he will. But I've got a lot anyway. But again, these are all really interesting coins. Unfortunately, again, they're very widely forged, so you have to watch out. Sultanate, this is probably the most complete area, actually. Those of you who've listened before will remember that Stan Goran wrote the book on Sultanate coins, and in order to do that, he produced a card catalogue, because this was before computers, really. He produced a card catalogue, and each card had one coin and photographs of all the specimens he had photographed. Very often it was just one, but sometimes he photographed half a dozen. And he very kindly gave me the card catalogue and gave me permission to use everything. So I have. And so every coin in his book, which is up there somewhere, is illustrated here. Of course, I was fortunate enough with Kashmir to get hold of Nick Rhodes' collection. So that was all added in as part of my collection. So that's all here. So again, you can print all this out. It will have everything that's in Stan's book. You could recreate Kashmir, everything that's in his book, plus all the new types that have been discovered since, which I've added to this database. Right, so I'm going to jump on now. So these are what I call ancient coins, and I've divided it into 3 periods. Gupta period, roughly that. Kushan period, roughly that. And earliest period. Okay, so I think you can guess what's under them. Well, actually you probably can't, because this is where I've got stuck trying to work out what belongs under each of these periods. And I've just received Wilfred Pieper's book on early Indian coins, because I thought that would solve the problem. I had to order it from America. It arrived from India and cost a bloody fortune, but it doesn't really help very much. I've looked, and it's really difficult to try to sort out where things might belong, but I'm trying. Kushan period, well, I've been waiting for a long, long time for somebody to produce a decent book on Kushan.
Me too.
But at the moment, this is the sort of thing I've got. So here I've copied something from somewhere, looks like Wikipedia probably. And you know, I've just got photos and put them in here, waiting to see how to actually organise this. So I've got lots of really nice looking photos, which I'm sure Joe could tell us all about, but we haven't got time for that. And then if we go to the earliest period, then pretty obviously there's all the Gupta Hardika stuff. So the only way I know of classifying that is the way that they classified it. So that's what I've done. And I've got photos of some of the coins from, well, a lot from my friend Bob Johnston in the US, actually. And then I've just put them with the GH numbers. So that's as far as I've got with that. I was hoping to get a lot more photos of this series, but at the moment I haven't. A book's just come out by Prashant Kulkarni, which he has entitled Deccan and the Godavari Valley. And then he classifies all the coins into different economic zones. So I'm going to follow that for that period. I haven't got anything in there at the moment. But the way he looks at the coins, I think, along with Shailene, is by the sort of river valleys where the people are based, rather than trying to say they're different dynasties and so on, which seems like a very sensible thing to do. So I'll follow that. But there are some people who are really easy to deal with, like the Indo-Scythians. Very simple.
I think so.
Because Bob Senior wrote a book.
You realise there are 2 Aussies, don't
Well, he doesn't think so.
I know it doesn't.
So
Some people can be wrong.
take that up. Well, indeed, that's true, Joe. Yes, they can be. So I just followed Bob so far, and I've just done what I've already shown you. Only here, the good fun thing seems to be these funny little monograms that are stuck on the coins. And there seem to be loads of different ones of those. So fortunately, of course, Bob's collection has come to the Ashmolean Museum and the whole thing's been photographed. So I can get the photographs, match them up with his catalogue and try and build them into here. My good friend has been going on for years about the fact that you can only look at this in one way, which is like a book, which works for me. But anyway, he wants some other ways of looking at it. So one way is to look by mint. So here is a list of every mint in this database, and there are a lot of them. I mean, that is just the A's, and it goes on for pages and pages. And from here, you can do exactly what I showed you. For instance, go to the Ahmadabad Mint. It shows you that. If you want to find coins, you just click on the button. There are the coins, and you scroll down and can see all the rupees and so on. And in this particular case, you can produce a PDF. You can't produce PDFs of everything because the PDFs only exist when I create them. They don't get automatically generated, which also means the PDF can be out of date because I could have produced it last year and could have added stuff to the database since then and not produced a new PDF. That's one sort of other search. Another sort of other search I've been working on are regions of India. So you can do whatever regions you want. So I've done a few that I can understand. For instance, I have a friend, Amit Mehta, who sends me photographs of coins of Gujarat. So I decided to produce a Gujarat thing. And of course, the Western satraps, who we've heard about already, were in Gujarat, so I've included them. Again, they're a pretty easy series to deal with because there's been a good book written already and so on. The coins are all very boring because they're all the same. Just to prove me wrong, I get a different one. They all look like this. But they've got different things written on them, but since I can't read the script, they all look the same to me. So I leave it to other people to identify them. But Fishman, Alex Fishman is a chap who's written the book, and all these have got Fishman numbers. So what I will probably do, this all comes from a massive collection that was sold some years ago. I'll probably redo this with Fishman numbers. I can do any kind of groupings. For instance, my friend Bob Johnston wanted to be able to get at all the British mints, coins that have been struck. What mints were... So all these mints are ones that coins have been struck under the authority of the East India Company. And I've been playing around with other things. I could have a list of every PDF that I've produced, and you could then choose to print out whatever you wanted. Mint maps, I thought, wouldn't it be quite good if we had all the different maps of where different mints are and so on at different times, and that was quite time consuming, but it's not difficult to do, it just takes time. Rulers of India I had a go at, but that didn't really seem to be very productive, actually. So I've given up on that. But the data is all in there. Now, I'll go back to what I was going to talk about, which is Satavahanas. Now, why would I want to talk about Satavahanas? Well, some time ago, a year or so, I was talking to Charlene about the fact that this earlier end of my database didn't have much in it. And he said, oh, well, I've got whole books of Satavahana stuff and all the photos. You can have those if you want. And I said, oh, okay. So he gave me about 1,000 photos of coins, and said, there you are, and scan them all in and put all the weights and measures and all the descriptions. And I said, okay, well. So I had to go. And I said, well, where's all the text? He said, oh, it's all in my thesis, it's all written up. So here is his thesis. You can look at his thesis whenever you want. If you go into my database, it will tell you everything you need to know about Satavahanas. Here are all the different areas on this map, which Charlene was talking about before, where the different coins are found. So for instance, if we go to, well, this is a list of all the different places. So Charlene just mentioned 3 or 4 of them, but these are all the different ones here. Banavasi, well, what I've done is just mark in red where Banavasi is if you look at the map. And then if you go to the coins, view all coin types, you see the coins are quite worn and battered, but you can see all of the emblems that Charlene was talking about, the hill types, the tree and railing. The other thing I've done is to take his types and link them into the coin so you can go directly to his particular type. So this is the Junar with the Srivatsa, for instance. That's this funny looking thing here. Or the lions, which are so well known of Junar, with these big manes and so on. And lots of them have the Ujjain symbol here modified with little things in between. So, and so on. So I did that with his 1,000 coins, and then he said, oh, by the way, Shatragan has been putting lots of these coins into his sale, and, you know, I've been advising him and so on. So why didn't you look there? So I did, yes, here, another 1,000. So I've got all these coins awaiting placement here, which need to be put into the database somewhere. Well, I have taken, what I do is take some out of this main coins awaiting placement and put them into a local awaiting placement. So for instance, Junar.
So siloing awaiting placement into
so
different.
Gradually they get moved into the right place. So you can see here a whole load of Junar lion types, and look at these quite good little things here.
No, but the third coin here was not in my thesis. It's the Junar lion type of Chimuka, which was again which turned up afterwards. So
So I don't know how many coins there are in here, but I was just estimating. I usually put about 10 a day, I would say, pretty well every day. I do take this on holiday with me.
No, I mean, this is
my
amazing.
wife goes off swanning somewhere. I concentrate on this.
You're talking about what, 100,000 coins here?
Possibly 100,000. People give me a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Somebody who wants to remain anonymous gave me about 1,000 Durrani copper coins, which I added. So, you know, I get them by the hundreds or thousands sometimes, let alone one at a time. Anyway, I'm going to finish. So I was going to show you this Chandi remark on how ugly he was, but Shailen's already done it. But what I've done here is take his coins from photos from his thesis, and also the photos from Shatragan's thing, and actually I think some other auction houses, and put them all in. So basically here he is, and you can see whip through. Incidentally, I don't call those things ear plugs, because that's what you plug in your ear rings, but anyway.
No, these are not rings, they are plugs.
But through the lobe.
Yeah, through the lobe.
I mean, what the advantage of having all these is that you can actually start to think about dyes,
Precisely.
which gives you
Yes.
some clue as to scale of production.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, this is a long time ago. I collected together about 150 images of Nahapana coins, and I found one die duplicate, which suggests that it was a massive coin.
Yes,
absolutely massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to make one comment in honour of Stan. This chap here, Stan, would definitely call him Mad Harry. That's what Stan would call him. So I thought I'd better just say that.
Typically Stan.
And that's it.
Thanks. Thank you, Paul. This is, this is transformative. Yes, we do.